everybody, and welcome back to the sixth episode of the Silver and Blue Insights podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Alonso, joined on the other side of technology, Andrew Mendez. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I like how you always say the same phrase, this other side of technology,
I
to
just,
start every episode.
yeah, I just,
I don't know, it's just so sweet. I think you just have to start every episode like that now.
for the Triborough podcast, listen, I literally just, our intros are the most chaotic things on the planet. Like, there was one time where I did an intro, and then we started researching how many times, um, players that played baseball had a specific first and last name. I don't know how it like got into that, but it's like that's the type of shit we do. It's literally the most
Wait,
random.
wait. So what did you find?
I don't even remember, but it was just like seven players had like the same name or something, and we were like
Yeah,
going,
you're talking about the same first and last name?
yeah, or so, it was something along those lines, or like
Victor Mesa? No, wait, no. That's two first
it
names.
was either that or like had a really weird last name or something. I can't remember what it was. Something to do with a name, and we were literally sitting there for like 3 minutes in the intro before we even started just talking about players that had those names. Is the most random shit on
I
the
love that.
planet.
I love going down more random wormholes with random topics. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm not feeling best about the Cowboys, but personally, I feel
Oh, I've
good.
got some people are they're gonna get ripped a new one on this episode. I could definitely tell you that much. Um, so just for those that fortunately did not watch the game, the Cowboys lost 28-25 to the Ravens. Be like, why'd you say fortunately didn't watch the game? It was not that close. The score was 28-6 going into the fourth quarter, and just for whatever reason, the Cowboys defense decided they want to get a couple stops, and I low key think that could hurt them in the long run because you literally saw what Jerry Jones saying. He's like, oh, they played really good in that last quarter. That's obviously gonna make him think like, oh, stuff doesn't have to change when shit's got to change, and I will get into that soon. But speaking on the defense, do you know how many rushing yards they let up?
I remember seeing the graphic in like the fourth quarter. It was like a 205, but it's probably it was up to like 230 or something like that.
273 rushing yards.
Jesus, that's even worse than
They
I
let up
thought.
190 last week. That is 463 rushing yards in the last two games.
Did we not predict this? Or did I not predict this?
You did predict this, and it's just horrible. Like, that's fucking abysmal. Because it's a thing of when, if you get, like, passed on a lot, that's one thing. Because just the way the NFL is with how explosive, if they're passing, they're likely to make a mistake, they're likely to turn the ball over, whatever. But when they just run it down the throat, your defense is going to get exhausted. And your offense is going to be playing from behind the entire time. And especially when you're in such a one dimensional offense like the Cowboys have right now, which we'll talk more in soon, you can't do much. It's a point where the rush defense is such a detriment to the entire team that it does not matter if you have the. I'll say it right now, unless changes with this run defense, it does not matter if you have the number one offense in football. You will still lose games. You are still going to lose a lot of games with how bad it is right now.
I completely agree. We talked a lot about it in the preview about how if you let teams run over you, they're just controlling the clock, which means they control the game. I said 31 to 14, which was looking pretty good actually. At like the end of the third quarter when it was 28-6. You said 30-27, which actually ends up looking like a better prediction. But like you said in the intro, the final score did not tell the story of this game. Dak, Dak just loves garbage time, I guess. He is he I'm not even trying to hate on Dak. I'm just saying he is a garbage time king.
I wouldn't even say that much, especially when you talk about a lot of the other turmoil on offense. Just well, trust me, I will talk about the CD Lamb shit because that pissed me off so much. But there was a stat I saw that the last two opponents ran 106 offensive plays. 84 of them were runs. In the last two games, you let up, call it, what, 70, 80 points? when teams only pass a combined 22 times.
It's just
That's
crazy
horrific.
how can the same team in football simultaneously be the worst at running the ball and also the worst at stopping the run?
Like I'm just,
Like,
is this?
we just don't we just can't figure out the rushing part of football. We've become so focused on this high flying West Coast offense, just like pass the ball. But football started as like only rushing. Like used to only be able to rush the ball, but we can't figure out how to stop that or how to do that. And like you said, it doesn't look like a good recipe for the season if we can't make some adjustments.
No, and it's also a thing of the NFL is become a lot more cyclical. It's a very cyclical league where when one team does something and it works, everyone copies them. The
Yep, it's a
NFL,
copycat league.
what's that?
It's a copycat
Yeah,
league.
exactly.
Yep.
Where a lot more you're seeing teams running too high safety where they're saying, "I dare you to run the ball on us. We're not letting you pass for a 75-yard touchdown." That's what the Cowboys get screwed by that because they don't have the run. And just looking at, I couldn't find an overall record in the NFL, but going over teams when they have 200 or more rushing yards in their win-loss record. The Bears 106 and 20. The Rams 110 and 11. Lions 65 and 15. Commanders 75 and 15. Browns 98 and 13. Cardinals 76 and 12. Steelers 124 and 9. Packers 75 and 9. Giants 77 and 10. 49ers 102 and 21. Colts 1 and 0. Just looking at some of these others, Broncos 69 and 11. Titans 70 and 11. Chiefs 76 and 18. Raiders 81-6. Patriots 68-7. And just go Dolphins 65 and 6. You look at all those records when teams, and this is obviously all-time stuff, but when teams rush for that many yards, it is near impossible to win that game. It's near impossible to win that game when you're letting up, and that's only at least 200 rushing yards, not 273. So people don't realize how hard it is to win a game, and people are blaming Dak for this shit. Like, I'm sorry, did you watch the fucking game? Like, I don't see how it is his fault that, like, oh no, he didn't run off the sideline and tackle Derrick Henry. Like, I want.
Same thing as last week. We talked about this last week.
Who do you think?
Why is he not
Who
tackling
do you think
Lamar?
has
Why
more
is he not
tackles
tackling?
this year? Mozzie Smith or Dak Prescott?
I mean, Dak did have that one tackle with Zeke.
Dak Prescott has more
Uh,
tackles than Mozzie Smith this year.
Mozzie Smith at zero.
I know that was true as a week 2. I didn't see him make a tackle week 3. Mozzie Smith stats. I doubt that he had a tackle. He made 3 tackles. Bullshit.
Okay,
Bullshit.
false stat. False stat. Fact
No, but
check.
the first
False
2
stat.
weeks he had 0 tackles.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
That's horrible. But just because on top of how
I
about
don't even know what.
you go.
I don't. Wait. I don't even know what like they're supposed to do. Like I'm not the biggest. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest X and those guys. Strategy. I never played football. I've never been a big film guy. But I don't know like what the adjustments are to be made. It's just like it feels like the roster's good enough, but I don't know. This and the roster's good, and we have a good coach, but we're playing horrible. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't think one trade, one signing is gonna fix this.
You gave me a perfect segue. So there was a quote by Bill Belichick. He was on the Pat McAfee show today, and just he was asked if the Cowboys' issues are fixable. This is the same thing they ran into last year. Look, the draft is over, free agency is over. I wouldn't expect a lot of big trades here. I wouldn't either. I think there's enough talent in Dallas to get things straightened out, but they got to look in the mirror and look each other in the eye and say we're going to do it. I think a big issue is they're just not tough enough. Where you just see guys that they get punched in the face and they almost give up. And guys aren't tackling. I talked about this last week where Kalen Carson, it was like 2nd and 8. he lets up like a 6 yard catch. He can make an easy tackle, just bring a guy down. It's like 3rd and 2, maybe third. Maybe he gets the first down. Maybe. Instead, he completely whiffs on an easy tackle, turned what was a 6 yard gain into a 50 yard gain. So I just guys gotta be tougher. They gotta actually like do the thing that you're supposed to do in tackle football and fucking tackle. And just, they gotta real like, look down and say, we are Charmin soft. We gotta fix this. And it's just that's what it comes down to me at the end of the day with this defense is they're just not tough enough. Where you look at Micah, you look at Diggs, the guys that are supposed to be your playmakers. Diggs should have made a play that would have stopped the Ravens, would have got the Cowboys back with I think like 2 minutes left and a timeout. I will say Micah was pretty egregiously held on that play. I'm not sure if you saw that picture. I don't like complaining about it because the way the NFL is, they are so stupid with the way they treat premier pass rushers, where they've literally, I forget if it was an official or like the officials association or whatever, but they essentially said like we don't call every holding on the best defensive ends because if we did, the game would be a flag every single time and they would be way too good if we actually called it every time. So, first off, stupid because you're penalizing players for
Yeah,
being too
that's.
good.
Oh,
But I'm not gonna harp on the Micah not called. It's just so
I mean, it's been a thing forever. He went like
yeah,
what was it like 10 weeks, straight
12
weeks without a
weeks, something
holding
like that.
call.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like an insane thing. That when he got one, I felt like that was like,
a pity
oh my
call.
god, it was like the season is saved
Yeah,
just in time for the playoffs. Or I
basically.
think it was in the playoff game. I'm pretty sure, right?
No, no, it was regular season. It was at home though.
Because I remember Mika got a holding call in that Packers game.
I definitely think it got broken before then though.
You might be right. But I remember he got one in that game also, and I was like, oh my god.
But
But yeah, but
this
there's
can
probably
happen.
another. But I remember there was a. It might have been a different instance. I don't know. Besides the point,
What'd you say? You
I
cut out
think
there.
you're. I think you're completely right. Like Dak always talks about being very accountable, and I think Dak's a very good leader. I like what he has to say most of the time. I don't know. Is Mika the best leader for this team for this defense? I
I
don't. And
don't.
also, like when you have two young guys like Mika and Diggs, it feels like it could be good to have like a like veteran presence in there because, like you said, I do think they need to humble themselves a little more and be like, hey, we have the talent, but we are not playing like we should. So like,
That guy should be DeMarcus Lawrence, but looking at his week 2 and week 3, since week 2, he has a 3.6% win rate, which is 91st out of 97 out of defensive ends. This week, he had the same win rate that me and you had. 0. So that's the guy that you expect to be kind of like that veteran leader and all that. You had it with Stephon Gilmore, but you let him walk because we couldn't afford him. Shut up, Jerry. But it just
we couldn't afford Derrick Henry. We couldn't afford
which
Stephon
okay, let me
Gilmore.
let me say this right now. I agree you shouldn't pay running backs, but you didn't even reach out to him. Derrick Henry literally said he was waiting on a call from the Cowboys before he signed with the Ravens. They never called him, so he signed with the Ravens. Guess what, Jerry? You have the advantage of being a no income fucking tax state. So players are gonna go to you because even if you offer them a little bit less money, they're gonna be taxed less, so they'll still get more money. He literally said how he would have considered giving a hometown discount to the Cowboys. Maybe, hear me out, Jerry. If you picked up the phone, you would know where he was at. But by not picking up the phone, how do you know that you couldn't afford him? How he said they couldn't afford him. That's why they don't have Derrick Henry. How do you know you couldn't afford him if you didn't talk to his agent? How do you know you couldn't afford him if you didn't talk to him at all? So you don't know where he was at. You don't know how much money he's asking for. So how do you know you can't afford him?
Jerry just he saw these contracts. He saw the Dak, how much money he was gonna have to pay Dak, and he saw how much money he gonna have to pay CD, and he saw how much money he's gonna have Mika, and he decided, forget everything else. I'm only paying these guys. I don't want to spend any extra money. I'm gonna sign a cheap running back for a cheap discount. I'm gonna get one linebacker, and I'm just gonna hope for the best.
Derrick Henry's
A
contract.
mature, a real
Or, sorry, you go. You go.
real owner would have actually like and like, hey, like there's ways to manipulate the cap, and like I'm don't you're not handicapping yourself if you sign Derrick Henry instead of Ezekiel Elliott. That doesn't stop you from signing Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb to long term deals.
I
He's
could
just making excuses for saving money.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the Cowboys are paying more to Ezekiel Elliott this year.
Well, yeah, but that is because of 2023
Well, yeah, when they cut
because
him, but
they cut.
still. But I'm still just making the
Yeah,
point that they're paying him more. But you look
yeah,
at, I'm just looking at his salary. He signed a 2 year, $16 million deal, $8 million AAV. He only has $9 million guaranteed. If you were to cut him after the 2024 season, it would be a $4 million dead cap, which is not much for a guy that could completely change your offense. And even then, like I'm looking at the cap hit this year for him, it's only a $5 million cap hit. So you have that first off, and then next year it would only be a $4 million dead cap hit. So you're not paying that much altogether for him. And then you also got to realize he probably would have taken a discount to come to Dallas. So it's just I don't makes no sense.
I
But
don't even know, man. It just sucks so much because it feels like the Cowboys are like they're the most valuable franchise in football. They're so close. They have such a good roster. They're right there. They just had a different owner. I just feel like things would be so much different.
yeah. But since I was talking about the running backs, did you see the snap distribution for the running backs?
Uh, no, I did not look at the snap count.
Deuce Vaughn had 5 snaps, five too many if you ask me. Ezekiel Elliott had
Yeah,
15.
one nice catch.
What'd you say?
He had one nice catch.
But
Deuce had
those
my boy Deuce had like a 10-yard play.
those runs were so hard to watch. They were so hard to watch. Ezekiel Elliott, who is averaging 3.3 yards a carry at 15 snaps, Hunter Lipke at 30 snaps, and Rico Dowdle at 37. They were
Yeah,
using.
that it did seem.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
say they were
it I
using.
well,
I was just gonna say they're
I just
using.
want to say watching the game in the second half, it did seem like Brad Dowdle was there a lot more than Zeke.
Mm, I was just gonna say on Lipke, it was very interesting how they used him because they used him primarily as the pass blocker, which I think was pretty good. I like that. And then on top of that, they used him as a receiver a little bit, which he had a couple of really nice plays. And I feel like he's one of those guys that
Yes.
you get him in motion, you get him running, and he's a fullback, so he's going to be hard to be brought down. And he's low key a little bit shifty. So I just don't see why you don't have a lot of physicality on the offense. You have a guy in Hunter Lipke that's playing very well. He's very versatile. So I would expect those snaps to even go up. And you look at PFF, he was the second highest graded Cowboy against the Ravens with a 70.4 grade. So, if you were going to say something.
You made me like a Hunter Lipke fan. Like I wasn't even like a Hunter Lipke guy. I honestly like my memories of him was that fumble, so I wasn't ever like oh yeah, but like you start mentioning him, and now I've seen him like this game. I think that like last drive like made me
Yeah.
a Hunter Lipke fan.
He's also so much fun because he's such a different player than we're used to. And think about him like a Taysom Hill minus the passing. Think about how many, like, he may not know what position he's playing, but he's playing at least like 60-70% of the snaps. That's the type of guy Hunter Lipke is. You can put him at tight end. You could put him at receiver. You could put him at fullback. You could put him at running back. He could play 4 different positions. And you know what? He could probably learn quarterback and be a better goddamn quarterback than Trey Lance. So that's obviously hyperbole. But he's a guy that legitimately could play 4 positions for you. I would expect him to get closer to 40 snaps a game rather than 30 snaps because it's been going up since week 1.
I think after this week they've shown that the Cowboys they like him a lot and they're gonna keep using him. I literally had in my notes just feed Lipke. He just He's just good vibes. It feels like when he gets the ball, it's like okay, things are
He's
happening.
like a
Like
little
even Tom Brady got
shifty.
like even Tom Brady like if you watch the clip of like the Lipke play, like the 30-yard play, Brady was like, oh, like he got excited. He was like, oh, fullback,
Yeah.
let's go, Lipke.
It's just it makes no sense because when you're struggling with weapons on this offense and you have a guy like that's versatile, it just I'm just praying that they play him more. Um, but I will say this: I will be fair. Rico Dowdle was the third highest graded Cowboy with a 69.5 grade, so it was zero point 0.9 lower than Lipke, which I have no issue with. I have no issue at all with that either. I think Dowdle is an average running back, which isn't an issue. I just don't like the running scheme, and it could just be so much better. So I don't know the run game like Ezekiel Elliott getting 15 snaps is like 10 too many. Honestly though,
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, most it's pretty clear like what we said. Like it wasn't the snaps and the carries weren't really lining up the first 2 weeks, but I think it's pretty clear after this week that Rico Dowdle is the RB1. Like
because
he will be
I
the rest
also
of the
want to
season.
ask like, what does Ezekiel Elliott do better than Hunter Lipke? Legitimately, I'm asking.
I would say maybe he's probably a little faster.
I I would counter with that Lipke's a lot shiftier,
Yeah.
and I would think that Lipke maybe has a tick better speed, and I think that shiftiness more than makes up for it, even if he is a little bit slower.
Yeah, no, that
You know what I mean?
is Hunter Lipke saving the fullback position?
He may be
Is he
because he's a better
is he
pass
bringing is
blocker.
he making fullbacks full again?
He's a better pass blocker. He's better at receiving the ball. I like him a lot more in short yardage because he's bigger. Three, I think he may be faster than Zeke at the point of his career Zeke is. He's definitely more explosive. Where like there's a difference because speed isn't necessarily equal
Yeah, yeah,
explosive. So
definitely more explosive. Zeke is just not explosive anymore. Zeke honestly feels like a fullback.
put Zeke at fullback. Honestly,
No, no, I'm just saying he feels like a
no, I
fullback
get what
because
you
he's
mean.
like, yeah.
It's so just if this was any other team, he would not have made it out of training camp. He would have played in preseason. They would have saw how bad he was in preseason, and he would not have made the active roster. That's
But
just
because of the boys,
yeah.
his his historic journey has begun, and now we're this is just the beginning. Wait till week 11 when we're having MVP discussions about
Oh my
Hunter Lipke.
gosh, seriously, Hunter Lipke, the fucking UDFA from last year is the best running back on. He may
Should we
honestly
just
be.
make a new logo for the podcast, but like
What'd you say?
instead of like, should we just make a new logo for the podcast and it's just like
Hunter Lipke's face.
the star? Yeah, it's like it's a star and like football, but then there's just Hunter Lipke in the middle, just like holding football.
I mean, honestly, that would work.
Because that's like our niche player now.
He shouldn't even be niche. That's the issue.
Well, he's not gonna be niche soon.
Oh
Just
my
wait.
god. Because I would make a strong argument that he is your third or fourth, and this may be hyperbole, but third or fourth best weapon on this team. You got Ceedee, you got Ferguson, and then because Cooks has done
He may be
absolutely.
better than.
What has Cooks done in the last, call it 16 games? The last 15, 16 games, what has Brandon Cooks done?
A lot.
What has Jalen Tolbert done?
Nothing really.
I
Like a
am
little
about
bit.
to make a proclamation. A, I am about to make a statement. I'm going to stand on this until I die. Cavante Turpin is the wide receiver too.
I don't hate the take. I still like. I don't know because of the experience and everything. Like it. Like I definitely think he's catching up. I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's past Cooks yet. But I think he's on the uprise.
Because you look at Brandon Cooks and Brandon Cooks' stats, doing this on the fly. So far this year, he has 75 yards. He has 1 touchdown in the Browns game. He has 8 receptions. You go back to 2023. You brought the guy in to be your wide receiver 2. 657 yards with a long of 35, which you're expecting him to be this field stretcher. He's just not that anymore. A guy who is a lot more of a field stretcher and is a lot better in that kind of like medium range throws is Cavante Turpin. And I don't know how many targets he got, but I know Brandon Cooks definitely got like 6 or 7 targets. I could definitely say that, and he only had 2 receptions. But a guy like Cavante Turpin, he's shifty. You get him the ball in his hands. If their teams aren't gonna give him the ball on kickoffs because they're just kicking it to Wanye Thomas instead of Turpin. So if he's not gonna be involved, that's a whole nother fucking issue that Wanye Thomas is returning kicks and not playing at safety. But Cavante Turpin, if you give him, you need to get him involved in this offense. He was an All-Pro returner, I think last year. I want to say it was last year. He was an All-Pro returner. He just has to get involved. It's just ridiculous that he's not more involved in this offense. He had the 2 touchdowns in the game. Get him more involved.
Yeah, it really. I honestly agree with you saying. We need a solid, like a solidified wide receiver too, because is CD. I think this is a good transition over to CD because CD's not happy
No.
about what's going on right now, and it's because no one else is a real target. It feels like besides Ferguson, so we need to establish a real a wide receiver too. So I agree with you, Shane. Give Turpin more snaps.
I get that, but I also that like he's unhappy because of that. But he's got to fix his shit. When
No, CD. I actually had it on my notes. It says CD needs to stop being a little bitch before he gets released or traded to the Dolphins.
it's not gonna be that extreme, but I agree with you.
Yeah, no, that was extreme, but like that was
He needs to stop being a baby back bitch. But
yeah, no, he needs to stop being a bitch.
his body language was so bad. You go back to the Packers game last year, he had horrible body language that entire game. You see him this entire game just moping and complaining, which it's one thing to like be pissed at yourself for not doing something, but you know how you make up for it? You get on the field the next time, you make a goddamn play. You saw where I will go. I think it was 21-6 at this point. They were driving down the field. They were first and 9. Then they get a holding call, which was debatable, but that's a whole nother thing. So you're first and 19. Dak on the goal line. You Dak throws CD about like a 10-yard route. CD breaks in for 5 more yards, gets the ball punched out. I obviously I'm not saying I don't care you got the ball punched out. Obviously like that sucks. The way to make up for that is to not bitch and complain on the sidelines. The way to make up for that is to be the alpha number 1 receiver that we signed you to be. I don't like bringing up contracts, but you were the best receiver in football last year. You were the second best weapon in football behind Christian McCaffrey last year. To be moping and bitching after you make one mistake is not acceptable. I'm sorry. It got to the point where you had to get fucking benched on the last drive of the game when they were rushing down trying to come back and they scored a touchdown without you. The vibes just felt so much better when you were not there. I'm sorry, CDB. You gotta fix your shit. That's not acceptable.
It's just the team chemistry. Like, how do you expect this team to turn it around if the team chemistry is not there? Like, you gotta be, I don't know. I'd fucking hate wide receivers, bro. Like, some of them know how to act, but so many of them are divas, and it's just like, and cornerbacks too. Cornerbacks and wide receivers are the biggest divas. It's just like, bro, like, we get it. Like, you have a lot of talent, but take a little bit of, you know, what your quarterback is doing and just be a leader. Don't complain when shit's going bad. It's like especially in a very public setting in the middle of a game when you're getting
On
mad at your
national
quarterback.
television,
National television, like a nationally televised 425 game against the Ravens.
it's so
I don't know, just grow up. You just need to mature. Just grow up, CD.
it's weird because he was a lot more mature. Before, like the last couple of years, he was a lot more mature, and then all of a sudden, this shit just came out of nowhere. And you could say he got paid, you could say whatever. I'm not gonna give a reason because I don't know CeeDee Lamb. I'm not gonna pretend I do. I'm not gonna pretend the many different million reasons why it could be. but just figure it out because it's so infuriating how it's just like a 180. How everyone loved him, all that. Like you could say like he's not getting fed the ball, but even when he is getting fed the ball, he's not making the same plays he did. That's a little extreme, but the passes aren't perfect, and he's kind of not making where he would turn not perfect passes into huge plays. He's not been doing that, and the fumble, obviously I mentioned. He had a 49.3 PFF grade this game, which is the second lowest of his career. The last time it was that lowest was in 2020 when he had Andy goddamn Dalton throwing him the football.
Andy
So
Dalton is a franchise quarterback, by the way. That's
apparently,
another topic.
but it's just also after the game he didn't talk to the media. And it's just I don't know what it is, dude, but figure it out.
That's so
Figure it out.
bad.
It's it's as
Yeah, I
bad
do
when
want to
Cowboys
really.
players don't talk to media as when Yankee players don't talk to the media. And for those that aren't Yankee fans, they won't may not understand that, but that is the biggest thing that you are the biggest franchise in your sport. You have the biggest media criticism. You talk to the media after the game. It doesn't matter if you threw for 700 yards and 17 touchdowns or you threw for 100 yards and 3 picks. You are talking to the media after the game. That's part of the reason why I love Dak, because after the game, be like, yeah, I sucked. I didn't play well. Got to play better. And just that's such a bad look to be moping, bitching,
So
crying, and then
bad.
not talk to the media.
All around very bad. Very bad. This is what Dak. I just want to read a quote because I did have a quote. Dak said about CD reading body language. I'm not really into it. I'm just into making sure he doesn't get down on himself. The body language, whether it's good or bad, it's irrelevant. It's where his mind is at. And so he's going to be disappointed when you're passionate and when you expect a lot from yourself. You're going to be that way. So for me, it's just letting him know, hey, next play, wipe it clean. Who cares what happens when you have an opportunity to fix it this next play or make a better play? If you're sitting on that, dwelling that, your mind's not in the right place. And Dak's completely right. I think it's very mental. I think he just needs to sit down with like the team psychologist or something, or just sit down with Mike McCarthy and Dak and be like, hey, CD, you got to figure it out. Like you got to stop bitching. You got your money. Play football.
Yeah.
We're trying. We're trying to win. We're not like this isn't the CD Lamb show.
Like honestly, and this is something I just thought about. What if we got like a drill sergeant into practices? You know what I mean? Because we're talking
That
about
would
how
be
soft they
perfect.
are. Gotta toughen these boys up. What if we just got like a drill sergeant in, and just like toughen them up?
What if we just had like Bill Belichick come in like as a special
Oh,
coach?
that's 2025. But anyways, um, yeah, it's because it's Jerry Jones. He's gonna hire an old coach. Shocker. Because we all know Mike McCarthy is gone after this year, but that is a talk for after we get blown out at home in the playoffs, if we make them. Um,
Yeah, if we make playoffs, that's a very good if.
just it, something that also rubbed me the wrong way, just because we're talking about the offense, is for the first half of this I love. Second half I don't. Israel Mukamu, I can never pronounce his name. First off, why is he not been getting more snaps? That's him and Wanye Thomas need to be getting more snaps. Anyways, they did the coin toss, they won, in something that I said they need to start with the ball.
Oh,
Mukamu said, give us that fucking ball." That is a direct quote from him. They get the ball, they get like 10 total yards when you include all the penalties. I think they get one first down and then they have to punt. If you start with that ball, you better at minimum get a field goal. At minimum, get a field goal. And I talked about it. I didn't see a world where the Cowboys won if they didn't score first, just because of how bad this defense is. And let's give credit. I completely forgot to mention it. Brandon Aubrey is the best player in the NFL. Like someone said, we're
yeah.
ruining Brandon Aubrey's prime, and like they're right.
No, this team is actually holding back what might be the greatest kicker in NFL history, and he honestly deserves the MVP. Like free Brandon Aubrey. I was literally thinking about that during the game. I was like, there needs to be a Twitter petition started right now. Free Brandon Aubrey. We are wasting his greatness.
We are. He had the 65-yard field goal. He had the I forget what it was. But it was like 54, something like that.
I think it was like 50. 51 or
It was
54,
over
and then he had the
50.
onside
It
kick,
was over 50. Yeah.
and then he had the
Yeah. The
and then the
onside
onside kick,
kick
which was perfect.
too. Just
Was that like the first onside kick that a team has gotten this season?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like thought of that. I was like, damn, was that like the first one with the new format?
Maybe. I'd assume another team has done it. I don't know for sure, but yeah, Brandon
I don't
Aubrey's
know. Onside
incredible.
kicks are pretty low. It's week 3. I don't
I feel like one team
maybe.
had to have done it once though, because I feel like there were a
You
lot of
think
like.
there's gonna be more?
What'd you say? Sorry.
You think there's gonna be more onside kicks recovered with this new format?
I don't know. I honestly think that it could have just been a thing of Brandon Aubrey is him, and for whatever reason, like the cow John Fossil always cooks some shit up on special teams, so it could
Non
honestly just be
fossil,
something
yeah.
like that. But just because I mentioned Mukamu earlier and Wanya Thomas, Donovan Wilson is god awful right now. I just don't think that he fits in the scheme. As much as I loved him in Dan Quinn's scheme, I just don't think this is the right scheme for him. He led up the touchdown in the half, or right before the half ended with no time left. That everyone was like, oh, they're going to get a field goal, whatever. And then out of nowhere, he just gets fucking dusted. And he needs to be on the bench. He could get snaps, sure, whatever. But I don't understand why you have Mukamu and Wanya Thomas, who have both played great in limited playing time, and you're just not playing them. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Hmm. Agreed. Um, I did have one more before we want to talk. I don't know if we want to talk more about the defense.
I'm just
We
jumping
have
around
talked a
at
lot
this
about the
point.
offense. Yeah, we're kind of just jumping around, but I did want to say in the fourth quarter, I can't remember if it was the last drive or the second last drive. I'm pretty sure it was the second to last touchdown drive. At Jalen Brooks catch, when it happened, I just got like flashbacks to Terrence Williams.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought like when I see the 83 and when I see someone like running with that, like I just thought Terrence Williams. I was like, I miss him.
I didn't even talk about Jalen Brooks. He slipped like two more times on routes. What are we doing? You literally slipped that led to a pick on a perfect ball last week, and he slipped like two more times on routes. I don't think he got targeted on them, but it's like, bro, like I'm watching you, and I just see in the corner of my eye 83 just slip over and over. It's like, dude, it's turf. How are you slipping? Just he pisses me off
I
so
don't know.
hard.
Is the AT&T Stadium an unsafe field?
Blow it up. Blow up the cathedral.
Jalen Brooks, Brooks may have something to say about the field.
That's another thing. Don't even get me started on turf versus grass fields. I hate turf fields, but that's a whole nother argument for another day. Just one of the. I think this is my last point on the defense. Yeah, this is my last
Well, the
point on the
Cowboys
defense.
love turf fields. Oh,
I hate it, but I talked about how bad the rush defense was. In the last three games at AT&T Stadium, the quarterbacks QBR 147.1. For those that don't know, the best you could get is a 158.3. They were this close to all having a perfect quarterback rating. The opposing running backs in that span, only the starters, not including backups, averaged 128 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. And that's not including the multiple receiving touchdowns. And Alvin Kamara having like almost 100 receiving yards last week. So I think that a big thing is, and I kind of talked about it. I don't think I really went that in depth because I was kind of coping, but I Mike Zimmer's defense is one of the most complicated defenses to learn in the league. I said that I think like week 8, week 9, they're going to be in a better spot just because they learned the defense. Um, so it's going to suck, but they got to just find a way to tread water until they figure this shit out, which sounds so bad because you got a gimme matchup this week, but then you look to their schedule, NFL, or let me get Cowboys schedule. You look at their schedule. They play the Giants on Thursday Night Football, which I'm gonna be at because I got lucky. Then they play the Steelers, which are 3-0 right now. Then they play the Lions. Then the 49ers, Falcons, Eagles, Texans, Commies, Giants, Bengals, Panthers. Panthers suck. they have an easier end of schedule, but these next couple weeks are going to be tough, especially because you look at the teams that have running backs. You look at the Steelers; they have a two-headed monster with Arthur Smith, who does nothing but run the ball. The Lions, we don't even have to talk about how incredible they are at running the ball. Gee, do the 49ers have a good running back that's going to be healthy by the time this game starts? I don't know. Falcons have
What week is it? Wait, it's week soon, right?
um 4, 5, 6, then the bye 8 for the 49ers game.
Okay, so honestly, I feel like McCaffrey probably will be healthy.
He'll be back for that. Falcons, they drafted Bijan Robinson, number 8 overall. Eagles, Saquon. Texans, Joe Mixon, and a couple other guys. You look at all those matchups that they have, they're going through a gauntlet for running backs. They got to figure this shit out.
Yeah, I don't know. One thing I did, my last note I had was like, is it is Dalvin Cook season approaching?
I don't know. There's a reason he
Maybe.
there's a reason he wasn't signed until a week before the season. You know what I mean? And there's a reason he's still been on the practice squad.
Yeah. I don't know, just to like try something out, but I don't really think it's gonna do anything. He's kind of just there as a backup option, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if somebody gets hurt.
I don't know what this team does because they're not going to make a trade. They're not, or like a big trade at least. And you have so many holes that you have to fill. Eh, I don't know because you need another running. You need a running back. You need a defensive tackle, and you need another wide receiver. I don't know how you make all those adjustments. You need a pray guy step up, and I don't. Odds are it's not going to happen. So I'm a lot more down on this team. You just have to pray that they can find a way to sneak into the playoffs and then hope that for whatever reason, whatever devil magic that Jerry Jones sold his soul for, they find a way to make it work.
Yeah, I will be very shocked if we're sitting here in like 4 or 5 weeks and we're like, oh, I was just a wash over, week 2 and 3 didn't really matter that much. This team is still.
Yeah.
One sec. It's fucking. You hear that?
Yeah, the wee
Yeah,
woos.
I don't want that to interrupt. But I'll be pretty very surprised if we're sitting here like week 7, week 8, and we're like, you know what, those games were a wash. This team is a good team, like what they're supposed to be, and feel pretty confident in them making the playoffs and being a
Yeah.
Super Bowl contender. I don't feel like they're a Super Bowl contender this year. I thought they were a Super Bowl contender prior to week 2. I don't think that anymore, and it's pretty clear why.
I see a path for the offense to get better. I see a couple paths for the offense to get better. I don't see a path for the defense though. You just gotta hope that Mike Zimmer cooks does something to fix it. I don't. It's seeming less and less
The
likely.
defense just feels like a lot. It like it sounds so sad to say after week 3, but it feels like a lost cause.
I
It really does. But like it can't like things can be fixed, but it's so sad knowing that like it'll never be back to what it was last year.
Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to kind of talk about for this week's game?
Um, Ferguson looked really good at
Yes,
the end of the
that was
game.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I said that you need to get at least 80, 90 yards from tight end position. Ferguson had 95 himself. So Ferguson looked a lot better. Um, Definitely gonna need to include him in the offense going forward because if you get him, CD, and then you get you get average production from the running backs, and then someone steps up for wide receiver too, I am so much more confident in this offense.
Yeah, Ferguson actually means so much to this offense. And if we can get him going earlier, that's what's gonna get the offense going early.
Especially on those seam routes with Dak just loves to throw. He's the best. I'm pretty sure he has the best numbers on seam routes in the NFL. Ferguson is one of the best seam route running tight ends. So it's just a match made in heaven, and he is so important to this offense. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and Dak just like you saw that in the second half. Like he just loved going to him. I think there was like a stretch where he just like it just felt like he couldn't get away from throwing to Ferguson.
But
So he's a
all you.
I was gonna say, so he's a positive. I like that Jake Ferguson's back.
Yeah. I don't know if I said it here or I like texted someone, but like I think I may have texted my cousin. There's like only 3 or 4 players I'm not gonna rip apart this game. It's Hunter Lipke. Dak had a solid game. I'm not gonna say I'll put it at like a B for Dak. Ferguson and Cavante Turpin. Those are really the 4 guys that I'm not gonna rip apart. Everyone else, fix your shit. And Cooper
Yeah.
Beebe, because who doesn't love Cooper Beebe? He did really well again.
Mhm. I don't know, man. I'm just hoping for the best. Really don't expect anything like anymore. Like my season outlook has just completely changed these last. Well, it really changed after last week, but this week just kind of like confirmed it. I'm just like
Yeah,
not putting too much of my stress into the Cowboys because I know that they're not a good team anymore. I'm just accepting that.
I can't do that. I'm way too optimistic. But kind of just looking around the league
I'm
at
like this with the Yankees too. Like when the Yankees have like a bad week, I'm just like, fuck this team. We're not winning the World Series.
such a fair weather fan.
No.
So fair weather.
I'm not a fair weather fan. Like I will my attention with the team will stay the same, just my emotional investment will be less.
Okay, sure.
Like if the Yankees are doing bad and they're doing good, I'm still paying attention just as much. It's just like my expectations are just like I can't let my heart get too invested in
Mm,
this.
yeah,
And that's where I'm at with the Cowboys right now. I'm not letting my heart get too invested in this, and at this point I'm like this team sucks and they're not making the playoffs.
I'm way too deep in though. That's my issue. I'm way too invested. But just kind of looking
Too deep
around
in.
the rest of the league and a lot of the NFC scores, somehow the Giants beat the Browns. I don't know. Malik Neighbors looks like he's legit. The
Mm-hmm.
Eagles beat the Saints in what was just the dumb. Did you watch that game at all, or like any highlights or
No,
anything?
I wasn't watching the 1 o'clock games. I only saw the second half of the four
This
o'clock games.
was one of the dumbest games I've seen in my entire life. Just coach like Rashid Shaheed dropped a wide open like 60-yard touchdown pass because I fucking started him in fantasy and he had 0 points. And I had Juwan Jennings on my bench who dropped 40. You had just
Yo, bro, Joe Jennings was
on my
off.
bench, and it was the last second. It was a lot. I was like, should I start him over Rashid Shaheed? I was like, nah. Trust your gut, Justin. Um, the Vikings are 3-0. I I don't understand how they destroyed the Texans 34-7. The Bucks got blown out by the Broncos. I just this was a weird week for football.
Oh,
Like
Knicks. Okay.
yeah, the a big one though. The Rams beat the 49ers, so the 49ers are also 1-2. Granted, they
hmm
didn't have Kittle, Debo, or McCaffrey.
hmm
And Nick Bosa and Travarius Ward were both game time decisions. So they're very beat
I've
up,
always
but guess what? They're all going to be healthy for when they play the Cowboys.
had Brock Purdy some help.
No, don't. No, don't. Don't give him help. I don't think he needs help. Don't give it to him.
Brock Purdy never gets help. We need to get him some help.
What, 4 All-Pros isn't enough? And that's not even
How
including
many All
offensive
Pros do we
line?
have this week?
I'm pretty sure Brandon Ayuk is an All-Pro. I could be wrong, though.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But I got nothing else to talk about. We're gonna do our season or a preview on Wednesday for the Giants game. You're gonna 3 episodes this week then. If we do Friday as the recap, a little 3 episode week.
Yeah, sure. Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah. Oh god, so
That's
much. So
yeah.
much editing, so much recording. Um, yeah, but
We do this for you, Cowboys.
yes. Even though they hate us. Thank you
Yeah.
everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Please follow us on Instagram, Spotify, Twitter, all of that good stuff at Silver and Blue Insights. If you're a smart person, I consider myself smart. When I listen to podcasts to support them, I listen on Spotify while watching on YouTube. Do that, be a smart person. And on that note, thank you guys. See you guys Wednesday.